Welcome. I am going to read the beautiful opening lines of John Keats's Endymion. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep. And such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk-rose blooms, and such, too, is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. Welcome back. John Keats composed Endymion in 1817 when he was just 22 years old. In the opening passage of this poem, Keats has presented some of the most beautiful lines in literature on the nature of beauty and its ability to lift us up out of our sadness and melancholy and give us peace of mind. In April 1817, Keats left London for provincial Britain in order to start working on the writing of Endymion. He visited the Isle of Wight in April, and there he began to study Shakespeare very closely. He saw himself as an apprentice to the great poets, learning the craft of poetry. He saw himself as walking in the footsteps of giants. In September, he visited his friend Benjamin Bailey in Oxford, and while he was there, he began to read Milton's Paradise Lost and to reread Wordsworth. This is the literary journey that he undertook, which ultimately led to the writing of Endymion. In October 1817, he wrote a letter to Benjamin Bailey, and in it he expressed his determination to write a long poem, 4,000 lines long. This was an ambitious project for a young poet, but he undertook to write around the subject of a poor mortal shepherd boy who fell in love with a moon goddess. He initially conceived the poem in terms of form and length, and he wrote it in heroic couplets. In November, he wrote an important letter to Benjamin Bailey, which is often thought about as giving structure to his central beliefs. And these words do stay with me. He said, "I am certain of nothing but of the holiness of the heart's affections and the truth of the imagination. What the imagination seizes as beauty must be truth, whether it existed before or not." Keats's opening lines are full of joy. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness. Here, Keats sees a thing of beauty as a joy forever. Far from diminishing its beauty, its loveliness increases. Forever rhymes with never, establishing the dichotomy between permanence and transience, which becomes a characteristic of much of his poetry. If you have watched my video on John Keats's Ode to a Nightingale, you will have an insight into the tragedy of his personal life, nursing his brother Tom to his death from tuberculosis. Where men sit and hear each other groan. His wish to escape the sadness and suffering and cease upon the midnight with no pain. The immortal song of the nightingale has the power to open charmed magic casements in his imagination, dispelling his sadness. For Keats, beauty is not something ephemeral and superficial as it so often is in popular culture, referring to the beauty in a woman or in a man. For Keats, beauty is something far more profound, something that can elevate your soul above the sadness and depression of life. In a letter to his brothers, George and Tom Keats, in 1817, he said, "The excellence of art is in its intensity capable of making all disagreeables evaporate. In Endymion, he says, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases." It is as if the experience of beauty and the memory of beauty accumulates and intensifies, giving you the power to rise above sadness and dispel all the disagreeables in life. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us. What can a thing of beauty do for us? It can keep a bower quiet for us. It can provide a soothing, restful enclave of green foliage in our mind, away from the anguish and fret, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. The wonderfully controlled rhythm emphasizes that beauty can provide peace of mind, joy, and good health, lifting us out of gloomy thoughts. Keats was trained in medicine at this stage at Guy's Hospital as an apprentice to a surgeon. His poem contrasts the notion of healthy and unhealthy, suggesting that beauty can soothe the anxiety and restlessness that seizes us at times. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. For Keats, some shape of beauty, remembered, becomes increasingly more intense and more beautiful each time it is recalled, knitting us to the earth. It can lift us from the gloomy cloud of melancholic thoughts that weigh us down. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep. For Keats, a thing of beauty is not narrowly prescriptive, but broad, even embracing opposites, the sun, the moon. It is a boon, a gift that fills us with joy. And such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make 'gainst the hot season. This is a clear allusion to Wordsworth's poem on daffodils, I wandered lonely as a cloud, which we know Keats had read, and we know that early in his career he admired Wordsworth very much. Some of you may have watched my video reading of Wordsworth's delightful poem. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Although Wordsworth does not specifically use the word beauty, there can be no doubt of the joy they brought. He tells us, a poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. Keats's debt to Wordsworth is clear in the closing lines of the poem. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. Keats continues to delight in the mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of musk rose blooms. The pace of the poem slows down, with an emphasis on each word, musk rose blooms, as if to indulge our senses. And he ends this section with, all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink, pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. Beauty includes the power of words to fill us with joy. Beauty is an endless fountain of immortal drink, pouring unto us. The word endless reiterates his initial claim that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. The fountain of beauty will never run dry, but rather it is a divine drink continually pouring into us from heaven's brink. It has the power to lift us out of sadness and depression and raise us to the very brink, the very edge of heaven, as close as we mortals can get to heaven and the divine. Please remember to click the bell below and subscribe, and visit me at my website formuse.org.